Tonight on Nights.
Now here's a good show.
We got a white Bronco heading.
Joe. Here with me is the other half, I guess, of the Sunday Nights Talks podcast. How you doing, Black Knight?
Oh, hello. I'm well, thank you. Been doing great today. Wrote plenty, and even edited one more chapter, and I don't know. I was in the process of drafting a short poem too.
Will it be for tomorrow?
Yeah. We'll see.
I had finished a bit of homework, and because Grammarly requires a 24-hour wait time between every time you use it per paragraph, I gotta wait till tomorrow. And I'm gonna after this edit chapter 2 of my Heracles novel.
Hey.
Yeah, well, I guess that's directly relevant to you because, well, you Bulgarians are right next door to Greece.
Yeah, and who went to the river Styx and back? Orpheus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of like Heracles the best of all the Greek heroes. He's very popular amongst us French.
He is. Yeah. He is. I agree.
It's because he's the coolest and because Kevin Sorbo was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't resist that reference. I grew up with that show. Sorry. It's just... well, I was kind of neglected and had a abusive stepdad, and I wasn't always allowed to see my actual dad. So, when you get home from school and all you have to look forward to is, an unpleasant time, you start tuning out of the world and start watching Sorbo's Legendary Journeys for 2 hours, because it would showcase 2 episodes a day.
Oh, nice.
So, you get to escape into ancient Greece. And that was a lot better than my family situation most days. And my dad was a big fan, so I would fantasize when I was a kid. I'm watching it. He'd be watching it at his place, is what I fantasized. And I'd be watching it usually with my oldest brother, who really loved the show and pushed me to watch it as a form of escapism. Because he had the attitude, I was too young to be treated the way I was. Because I was about 6 or 7. So he would protect me by having me sit down and watch Legendary Journeys.
That's one way to escape.
Yeah, I know it's a little heavy, but I still love Sorbo. I watch his show at least once to twice a year.
Didn't they mix it? Well, not mix it, but bridge it with the Xena Warrior Princess.
Yeah,
Xena
that on off from it. Xena was the ugly, redheaded, stupid, incestuous younger sibling of it. I hate Xena. I shouldn't say that, but I freaking hate that show. Feminist nonsense. And I don't know if you like it or not.
I couldn't watch much of it. I think I watched the beginning because the channel that aired them stopped airing them. And that was one of the problems in the quote unquote post communist Bulgaria, is that they purchased limited number of episodes and then dubbed them and then released them, but when they
you gotta watch Legendary Journeys.
I think I watched more of it than Xena. I think I watched like maybe
It's a lot better.
12 episodes of Xena, but I noticed that they were using like the same props and stuff, sets and
Yeah.
clothing and everything. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that they saved lots of money by doing that.
Yeah. Lawless was very popular. Well, she was hot, but the problem is she was sleeping with one of the execs. So all the funding got put into Xena instead of Legendary Journeys. But the writing on Legendary Journeys was a lot better and tighter. And it was much more logical how the show ran with its themes and ideas. But Sorbo nearly walked eventually because he got sick of fighting for the show. So they had to give him a great latter half of season 4 and great season 5. And then season 6, he said, you know what, I still have to fight tooth and nail for everything. I'm just walking. I'm leaving. And sadly, the show was pulled, had the plug pulled. But, like, I'm right. It helped inspire my own novel, so I'm going to be writing those stories. And because Disney's coming out with their trash stuff, a trash version, I have the idea of maybe finishing the book in December, working to get it published in the next month or 2.
Also, it's mostly finished.
Yeah, but I'll probably end up throwing my book at Sorbo and seeing if he'd be interested in doing the audio narration for it.
Ooh.
Because I know he loves to kick mainstream in the balls whenever they blaspheme against what he calls his character.
He would probably love it. Yeah. He would probably love it.
Yeah.
And I have the Crown of Blood, by the way.
Ooh.
I will read it as soon as I can. I just,
busy.
In my case, it's insane. It's pretty much crazy. And after I finish my current reformatting and editing project, the next one starts immediately. But eventually I will maybe during my holiday vacation, quote unquote vacation, I can read it.
All right.
I'll make the time, and I'll write you a review.
All right.
Thanks. Yeah. So that's hopefully you will have time, just like because I know you're super busy, just like me. You'll have time to read some more of my stuff.
Yeah, I want to actually kind of start it over from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is, for some reason, I'm having some problems with Amazon's, but I'm hoping I'm going to resolve that in the next week or 2 and just.
I can send you a copy.
All right.
I can send you a file.
We'll discuss that later. But as for politics, people tune in for that because I'm going to give this podcast a spicy title. We had a Maori woman it's making the rounds on Twitter, how she tore up a Parliament document over in New Zealand and then proceeded to rave like a mad woman. Her and a few members of Parliament then began doing some idiotic dance, like they were possessed, and
they probably were possessed.
Yeah, probably. She looks crazy, and I just wonder, part of me had the thought, hey, Satan, next time you want to possess someone, maybe try making them look intimidating rather than idiotic. It might help your case. I don't know.
Yeah, but it doesn't always work. It's like the easiest are the
idiotic.
Pretty much. Um, there was a case here, I remember, where I think he was like an old Stalinist, and yeah, he was trying to defecate in a church
Ugh,
because he assumed that would be,
that's horrible.
yeah, but this is like Orthodox country, and our priests, just like yours back in the day, they kind of do the smiting, and he got slapped out of it quite efficiently and expediently got slapped out of it.
Well,
So yeah, he ended face first in the pavage.
good. But I have to defend our Western faith. I'll call it, or Occidental version, I should say, considering Greek and Catholicism are just, the Orthodox and Catholic churches are just mere images of each other, just, Oriental, Occidental. But in defense of our Occidental version of the church, I'll say this. Despite Bergoglio's attempts to veer us towards Marxism, communist nonsense, the Latin Mass is regaining popularity. Vatican II is collapsing. So, we're kind of heading back towards being, a proper church.
Yeah, I when I write about similar things, similar themes in my books, I call it a regeneration, restoration. So it's inevitable. Like the more certain forces push for deconstruction, destruction, replacement, etc. It's like their demise becomes ever more impossible to
Maintain.
yeah. This is for example, here we also had this push to
Deconstruct.
yeah, it's pretty much financed by certain interests, including one person whose name begins with an S and ends in Soros, and yeah, they assume they could have these like endless parades promoting all sorts of degeneracies. But
You guys shut out our proper country.
well, first the politicians robbed him. They took all his money for bribes, like he had to bribe them. So the politicians robbed him. Then the cops said, okay, you have to bribe us too. They took more of his money, and then like the all of these parades ended because the cops said, okay, so we are not going to protect the parades because you don't pay us anything. Fuck you. And they got basically pummeled into the asphalt because
Sounds like
I think at the third one they decided they would try and occupy a school, elementary school. They attempted to like enter the school and wave flags and like dance naked or something. That was quickly remedied.
Well, I'll say this. Like, it sounds, the more you talk about it, the more I sigh and I get weepy-eyed with longing and admiration for you Bulgarians.
Oh, it's not just us. I mean, the Poles and the Hungarians and
I do hope the
the
Greeks.
Romanians, like that's and the Greeks too,
Ooh,
and the Serbs, of course.
Well, the
Um,
Serbs. Well, I'll say this: if anyone deserves their own country back, it's the Serbic people because, well, after the 78 days, I think it was, of darkness in the 90s, which was a horrific event. Um, I'm still mad about it when I found out about it in the 2010s. I remember my dad being angry and vitriolic about it he had always had a strong sense of justice, and he was vitriolic when he heard about it in the 90s. Um, but yeah, it's a whole, reparations. I don't mean like in the monetary sense, but some form of spiritual reparation must be made because the Serbs did not deserve what they got.
yeah, they. I remember that during that period, some of the missiles and the bombs fell here too. They weren't as precise, as well guided as certain people want you to believe. So we had like
Still a
this.
crime.
Yeah, it's nothing compared. It's like pales in comparison to what happened there. It was terrible. They got screwed bad.
Well, I'll
Real.
say, I'll add this: the Slavic East, as a lot of us like to call it out here, should not have been plundered. There should, like, the moment that we saw the Germans weeping and coming together as brothers for the first time since probably the 40s. I don't think there should have. This just shows how scummy these elites are, because there should not have been a single shot fired in the 90s against any Slav. At least that's my opinion, because, well, it was, the trouble was, Slavic people did essentially nothing wrong. I just mean like those who were not in the government of the USSR. You guys did nothing wrong. You were, for lack of a better, you were properly oppressed. Like, it's not like pretend oppressed, like the clowns who run our, I can't even say society, but our countries, or maybe economic zones is more appropriate.
Let's call it clown world.
All right.
Yeah.
The producers of Clown World should
Yep,
not.
yep.
How's that?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, good. They should not have done what they did. And the head clown himself, Clinton, honestly, wow, let's just say God's not going to be impressed with him.
He did not sleep with that woman, Oh no. Yeah, it's like I remember some of the events quite well, because I served in the border guards. I pretty much did nothing, but it's nothing to talk about. It wasn't anything spectacular. It was just like dig this, move this, carry this, go guard this storage, and it's like in minus however many degrees in winter time during the night, blah blah, and that was it. Like, but at least I was privy to like a little bit of info. And I knew that there were like caravans of people who attempted to escape the war zone. And I learned that some of them were bombed with cluster munitions.
Must have been shocking.
Well, how should I put it? We had like the army had like prepared anti-aircraft positions. And they were like, there was a point where they said, okay, next time when you drop bombs on civilians, we're going to launch missiles at your planes. Fuck you. And we're going to launch the missiles over our borders.
As you should.
Where we're just going to move the same sites, like they're mobile. We're going to move them at the border, and we're going to shoot your planes. And they stopped.
I honestly hope that
They continued to bomb other targets, but at least they stopped that.
Yeah. Actually, well, apparently, just to get back to the weird, stupid Maori, I can't even call it a dance version. Apparently, they call it a victory dance, but apparently they were when some of their sports team this week went to do it in front of the French team in international football. Apparently, the French just merely stared them down in the old Gallic manner, or I should say, well, like a bunch of Gauls, and the French team were about twice the height of the New Zealand team, and just simply stare them down, glaring at them until they basically got intimidated and moved around. And from what I think the French won, but the people online are just saying, wow, you guys are trying to do some weird dancing crap and shake your rear in the gayest manner possible and shrieking at the French who invented the yelp, or no, the gop, like the old Gallic war cry.
By the way, wasn't that special musical instrument also Gallic? Was this what was the name? I think it was made of bronze. The head of it was like a dragon's head.
That would be real, n'est-ce pas? Harp? Like the Irish harp, you mean?
No. It was it was like not trumpet per se, but you blow in it really hard.
The pipes?
No. It's not the pipes.
Sorry.
Let me see. By the way, I read recently about it. It was like it gives like a really horrible, scary sound, and apparently it was blown before and after the battle.
Oh,
yeah, it was haunting.
I'll have to listen to it later.
Yeah, I'll find some YouTube video and send it to you. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. When it comes to, but I just thought it was funny because the most heavily bearded Frenchman on that team apparently just glared until the Haka fools lowered their gazes or went to their positions, but apparently they were all intimidated by him. He was like 6'6" and just staring them down. I just loved it because when I saw the video. But see, we need someone in Parliament to do that to these buffoons, the Parliament of New Zealand. And this sort of behavior is growing in the other parliaments, so that I'm not going to lie, I'm starting to question what the point of a parliament even is. Oh, and Calnix.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I know what these are.
I suspected. I had the sneaky suspicion.
Yeah, I think I saw them first in Asterix and Obelix.
Yep.
I think they look cool.
They're insanely cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I should feature them in one of my stories one of these days.
You should. I mean, especially in the same, like during the same period that you write your stories. I think they will fit perfectly.
They should. Maybe I'll put them into my Luth ones, like the Ancient Tales of Men of Gallia.
Yeah, that's like a perfect fit.
Mm. All right, and maybe I'll even have the elves use them.
Yeah, it's something which is quite mystical, and probably one could say that they are possessed by the ghosts of fallen warriors, and when you blow them, they are summoned back to the battlefield.
There's an idea.
They never leave the battlefield. I once
Oh shoot, we lost him. Damn it. Now I gotta sing and dance. Let's see. Well, I'm gonna first write down what he was suggesting. Jeez, I can't do this show without him. Yeah, so the Maori are people who have been doing this dance. Now, the thing is that I have a problem with is just you're in a public setting, like a little dignity, decorum, really. I just cannot fathom why these people would comport themselves this way when, it's not exactly proper to do it. You're supposed to project strength and dignity across your nation and the globe. But the trouble is, for some reason, some of these people are just preferring to act like clowns, like children. And the problem with this is that what it is doing is it is projecting weakness across the world. Because what will the Chinese or the, I don't know, who's opposed to New Zealand, what will they think seeing this? They'll look at this and just say, well, wow. So this is not a serious nation. I can take these guys. I should take these guys. I need to civilize them. And by civilize, they'll think, well, punish harshly. This is how it works with empires and nations. And I have to admit, I don't want that to happen in New Zealand. I really like a lot of people in New Zealand. I love the film industry from that area, and I don't really want to see this happen to them. But it is how people think and how the Chinese will think. And it's just, it'd be so nice if people took their countries and whatnot seriously. Heyo.
The page just dropped to me.
It's done that to me in the past.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I don't know how much you heard.
You were at the point of suggesting that the Kalni, I'll say Kalni. It's probably more appropriate. I'm not entirely familiar with these things. I only know a little, but you had suggested that the souls of the dead stayed in the battlefield, and that this was one way to summon them.
Yeah.
I'll admit that when I'm looking at it right now, the horse-headed version looks stupid, while the dragon-headed ones.
Oh yeah, the dragon-headed version is insane.
Yeah.
I was talking about that.
Yeah, I know you were.
Yeah, I mentioned my character. I don't think it came out. He was.
I need to get one of these.
Yeah.
I wonder.
You need to get one of these, and you need to record yourself playing on it, and use it for like intro part of the intro video of your page.
Oh, there's an idea. This one just fall. Oh wow, there's some on I think Etsy and eBay. Let me see this. I gotta see this. I gotta see this. Now you've got me all excited. All right.
Yeah, but I was going on like a side track about the spirits, because one of my characters, Boris, who is a telepath, he was chained together with over 1,000 vengeful ghosts, while he was working as a slave in a uranium mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he, because of his abilities, he was able to channel them, and promising them vengeance. And he later acquired a staff, which of course it wasn't really a staff, it was the handle of a mattock. And he reshaped it a bit, and it became his staff, his like quote unquote space wizard staff, let's say.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
So yeah, it has like when he channeled the spirits into it, it got automatically engraved, like this like the specific engravings that you make with hot knife on wood, the fire engravings on wood.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it if you're a telepath. You can actually see that, or if you have a connection with him, you can see all of the faces of these spirits on the staff. And of course it later changes because he trains them. He trains the spirits. It gets insane, but yeah, that is a short tangent.
Yeah, I need this book. Which one is it?
Well,
it better be in Lord of Bones.
It starts with it's the main Star Shatter series. Starts with the beginning where he's introduced, and like everything is set up there, and slowly, book by book, it gets to a point where at the fourth book, he utilizes them. He reforges his contract with the spirits, and is later able to retrain them.
Maybe
one of the ancient Slavic warriors of the land, he comes to his aid and helps retrain the spirits.
Oh wow, I just looked it up. This was also something, I didn't know this. I thought this was mostly French, but apparently it was popular until the 19th century in Scotland. Interesting. So primarily, I think it looks to be the Scots and the French who did this.
That's going to be, I think,
I'm so very
quite useful to you.
Yeah, because I'm Scoto-French, so well, to me, the connection between the two is just something I revel in. All right.
Yeah, and you wrote a lot of stuff about.
I want to share this moment. I've never heard this before, so let's go. These interesting.
Now imagine you're traversing a misty plain. And you're tired, you're marching, you're a Roman legionnaire, and suddenly out of the fog comes this, like, but it's not just one, it's like hundreds, maybe thousands.
Yeah. Ooh. I have to admit, I think it's a disgrace the Romans didn't adopt it themselves. They really should have. Shame on them. And I do mean it. Shame on them. But hey, what have the Romans ever done for us and all? But thanks. I'll definitely have to take a closer look at these things. They look huge. I'll have to. Maybe I should make a wizard who uses them use one of these as a staff. But yeah, so you see, this is the difference between we Celts and you Slavs and the Maori, because the Maori are clinging to some pretty weird beliefs, while the rest of us basically kind of moved past them. And even then, I don't think our traditions were half as well. Let's just put it bluntly, they're cannibals.
Cannibals. You mean like the yarn in my series?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the cultures with specific traditions that I wanted to world build someone like them, because it's a way to showcase how people could fall. And they initially had like certain beliefs which were quite chaotic, but they weren't that down the line. But at a certain point, the slippery slope. What people say about the slippery slope, and it's like one step down and another step and another step, and they went full cannibal. And it's like to an extent, to such an extent that they cannot consume anything else but living sentient beings. If they try to consume anything else, they have like they will be afflicted by a virus of the soul, basically, because part of their souls, they are already like they belong to their quote unquote god, like the being that they have sold themselves to, which is called the One, and in exchange of certain powers, not all of them, but most of them. And if they consume anything else but a living sentient being, they pretty much go into this almost like ghoulish state, and then nothing can satisfy them, and they descend even further. They become like those who eat the dead. They would feast upon corpses, and it gets even worse, until in the end they are just mindless zombies, pretty much. But with the risk of spoiling, I'm saying this with the risk of spoiling some of the world building and things in the books, but I just couldn't resist. It's perhaps one of the most hated enemies in my series among my readers. They just can't stand them, and they have this warped understanding of victory and honor, which is the weakest opponent defeated is the most honorable, like the greatest victory. Do you see what I did there?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I'm going to say about cannibals.
If they're, yeah, but the Maori aren't apparently cannibalistic right now, supposedly. But I say supposedly just because they act all weird, claim their culture is superior, and they went bonkers.
What can I say? Not all cultures are the same.
Yeah, not all cultures are created equal. Well, we got to be honest. Europe and Asia have always been the bedrock of the greatest of civilizations on Earth.
Oh boy, oh boy. When we talk about especially Asia, let's say India, China.
Well, I don't
Oh yes,
India's not Asian.
yeah. But
And
if you ask the Indians, they will say it's like some of them will say no, we're Asians. The rest will say no, we're not. I'm talking because I'm saying this because I know a couple of Indians and like all of them said different things to me. So
yeah,
I don't know.
well, I mean, when I think of Asia, I think of Vietnam, China.
Oh yeah.
Korea and Japan. Although Mongolia at one time wasn't all that civilized, considering Genghis Khan. And
That was, by the way, that was suicide by invasion.
yeah, Genghis was pretty bonkers when you read the actual historic record. But the Mongolians today are actually pretty cool. Well, I think they're cool.
I mean, they were cool back then. They were just like used.
And well, make the steppes barbaric again? I'm joking. I really shouldn't joke about that. I don't think the Chinese would like it.
No, they won't.
Oh well. But on another note, speaking of the Chinese, I guess, what's interesting is I found an article over on Substack. One second, let me just find it.
All civilizations need a great romance. Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. Let's see. All civilizations need romance. But the trouble is, it's not cropping up when I search. Oh, found it. All right. Here it is. And what I find really interesting about this article is that the guy gets to the core
It's based.
things. Yeah, it's the most based thing I've read in
It's based as fuck.
I don't know how long. And I just find every section of this essay fascinating. Now, he starts off with the romance of the Three Kingdoms, but and with good reason. That's one of the greatest stories ever written. Have you ever read it?
I regret to say that I couldn't finish. I had like I read it. I began reading it during a period of time when I began to experience like problems.
No,
And
I'm sorry.
I stopped. I couldn't. Probably, I don't know. I hope one day I can reread it. But
Same. I'll be honest, I kind of prefer Journey to the West, but I want to read Journey to the West in French. And I've ordered a copy, but the thing is, it's stuck in the mail, which is a wound I'm going to carry until I feel it, the book in my hands, and I can just, sorry, I love Chinese and Japanese and Korean literature. These civilizations are just
especially what I love is that some not always, but sometimes you have quite intricate character and world building.
yes,
which is expensive.
Yeah. And what this guy gets into a little is how Romance of the Three Kingdoms really built a great epic, and the other Asian societies tried to, write their own great epics similar. I would argue, if you look across the board, Korea had a great novel in the 16th century about a guy who goes off and founds a kingdom. It's freaking good. I've only read a little bit of it, but I really want to get back to reading it. It's on my Kindle. But as for Japan, there's Genji Monogatari, there's Heiki Monogatari. I need to get through Taiheki as well. And there's Yoshikawa Eiji, who all of his books are just freaking amazing. But what these great stories and whatnot do is create a great romance. And now he says, when I see millions and millions of invading migrant hordes break into the country without regard for the sanctity and the posterity of the men who built up the land, they're so desperately craving for themselves, and still have the gall to brag that without them the country would be nothing. I'm reminded of Cao Cao murdering his father's sworn brother Lu Boshi and the entire Lu household after Boshi offered Cao Cao refuge. Now, yeah, although I think where it's similar to Cao Cao is that historically Cao Cao and a lot of his successors began opening the doorway to horse riding steppe nomads, which they use as an important integral part of their armies. But the problem is they kept bringing more and more of them in to help fight in the battles because these were really good soldiers. But the problem is eventually those men just turned on the Han Chinese and took power themselves, like in the Roman period.
By the way, there is a saying about the wolf having a strong neck and doing his own hunting. Excuse me for interrupting.
Oh, do go ahead if you have.
That was like one of the things which here it did not happen because the kings, like including the Slavs and the old Bulgars, they keenly understood this, and they never had they had allies, but they never had guest warriors doing their warrioring for them.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but your Bulgar and Slavic ancestors were the barbarians. The barbaric warriors used this way. You know what I mean? Like, you guys were the savage hordes coming in and fighting, doing the fighting and taking over yourselves to an extent. Because, you have Attila, and then you've got all the succeeding steppe nomads that were to, basically just become part of the area and the region. And the Slavs are incredible warriors, and for almost, what was it? I think probably, I'll say 12 to 1300 years, you guys have been there. And we got to bear in mind there was a great Slavic push westwards that was stopped by Othon, the 10th century German king, who did in one generation an entire reconquista and pushed the Slavs back. But Charlemagne had stopped the Slavs at one point, and then, when he died, the Franks just started infighting until the 10th century, when Othon had to fight off the Slavs and push them back to the east. But after that, the Slavs were converted and melded with Europe. I'm just saying, that's the history. But it's really fascinating stuff. Like Slavic history is freaking interesting. Sorry, well, we're both European, so
Yeah,
we can gush about the history. I think
we can rant about the history all day and all night long.
because it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Like and frick, like sorry, I love European and Asian history. I'll never stop gushing and complaining that why do we not have more video games about figures like Aton or like movies about Hugh Capet or Charlemagne. Charlemagne
Oh
should have
yeah. So
series of-
Charlemagne should have like a fucking
of war
huge TV series or something like that.
Yeah, he should have. Like honestly, there should have been since the 70s a Taiga drama, almost like depicting each year of his life as a TV series, from when he was born all the way up to, or even like his conception all the way up to the end of his life. And I know some people who've told me, but Joe, that would mean like we'd only be, like we wouldn't even have reached his death yet if we did a drama like that. Yes, but it'd be the longest running drama ever, and it'd be awesome. There'd be, like, I think people would watch it by the millions because Charlemagne. Let's watch him slaughter some Saxons and some Norsemen and some Saracens. Let's just have them go freaking crazy, go wild with it. But I also think that, just portraying, for example, well, thankfully there are dramas about Vlad, but we also need some on Basil, the Bulgar Slayer, and other figures of like Greek and Bulgarian history and other great figures like that. There's not enough dramas made of Europe, of mainland European stuff. The only stuff that gets made is Roman and more modern stuff when there should be more. Asia and Europe are just the history. Anyways, I think that there's a lot of material that's available for great romances, as this guy calls it. Now he says, what was and let's see. Oh, Le Roi Clovis le Premier. Had I been there with my brave Frank, I would have avenged his wrongs, he says, upon learning of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Which Clovis was, I don't know if I'd say he would have done that. He was a violent king after Herod's own heart. Like, this guy was he's one of the main founders of France, but he was kind of a monster. And yeah, like, I know it's my civilization, but yeah, he was kind of monstrous. Charlemagne was far, far nicer and far greater in every sense of the word. King Alfonso and El Cid are discussed in here. I just love the quote. Good lords deserve good vassals, and good vassals deserve good lords. As Guan Yu himself stated when he swore that oath of brotherhood, a good bird chooses a good tree to perch upon, and a good man chooses a worthy lord to serve. You never see talk like that in today's world, or in today's...
Well, because certain persons like to glorify cockness and weakness because they themselves are
weak,
pathetic.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
So this is another saying that those who cannot stand strength, they want everyone to embrace weakness. I don't know if you've heard that.
I've heard it. It's just Yeah. Um, let's see. What this guy also gets into is the West, the Occidental world, or Christendom, as we should call it, la chrétienté. The chrétienté used to rely upon three sources of mythology: the classical, that is to say, everything of the Greeks, Roman tales, the Frankish, and the English traditions. And this was the Latin was important internationally until the 1900s. Yeah, to an extent. And the education relied around texts like the Aeneid. Oh my gosh. The story of Aeneas is just, I love it so much. Arguably, there should have been more movies about Aeneas, but I think Aeneas has not been given a movie because it's too much like the Christian story, where Aeneas has a divine mission given to him by his mom, Venus, by the gods, to go found Rome. And everything he does is done in the name of pietas, divine filial duty, because pietas combines the idea of divine duty, a God-given task, and a filial task, like filial piety to your forefathers and to your descendants. And I think these sort of themes is something our civilizations desperately need. But certain clowns who are producing Clown World don't want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because imagine filial duty extending to your children as well as your elders.
We can't have that. We can't have positive examples. No. No. We have to embrace degeneracy.
Yeah, these people are really after Stalin's own heart, if he even had such a thing.
The thing is, like, if you remember at the very beginning of the Soviet Union, that was like rampant degeneracy. They even had some people walking naked and quote unquote bedding each other out in the street. But the Soviet state quickly realized that
people don't like that.
No, and they said, "No, comrades, no, you will stop with the degenerate shit." And the said comrades were like, but you promised us like unlimited freedom, and they said, okay, we will show you. We'll give you this free ticket, where you will board this train, and we'll take you to Freedom Land.
Whoops.
And they took them to Freedom Land. A land of milk and
It went well. Like it's like the dog in the house on fire. This is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, comrade, board train now.
Let me try to do my throat's not doing the best, but let me try this. Comrade, you do well when, what was it? You epitomize all virtues of communism. Now board train, comrade. Or face walk. I don't know if my accent's good, but
yeah, it's one of our guilty pleasures is like this, emulating this accent. We can do it easy because we're Slavs. Like we actually invented this whole alphabet and stuff. But we also love like the fake German, like the Hollywood German. We call it Hollywood German.
It is like that.
It's full of. Because my brother studied German and he can. He's like, nobody talks like this. Like literally no one. Only comedians talk like this, and they do it on purpose. It's like they're joking, and that crap that they say, oh yeah, the Germans they don't have any humor, and they don't have communities. It's crap. It's bullshit.
I used to I used to know a few Germans who didn't have any humor, but then I met two.
They were probably like.
I met two Germans in Japan when I was there last, and I've met one YouTuber who's German. My gosh, he laughs all the time.
Most Germans are like that. Like,
oh, yeah.
I've met like only one who had no humor at all, but the rest of them, like especially in the university and after that, even in the States when I went on like a student exchange program, they were hilarious. They were like jokes nonstop. They were like always doing something funny. It's totally not true. Just like the stupid myth about like the French are surrendering all the time. Like, what the? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Have you even studied like the French military history? What?
You tend to. The problem with the French military is that it actually does the opposite. It fights to the last Frenchman.
Yeah.
And the problem is when there's no chance of winning, they do the Celtic thing and just say, we'll just charge. And that just leads to everyone getting slaughtered. And that's actually led all the French defeats in history have been because, our backs are against, I guess we're just going to charge now. And but there probably were other options. But
probably, but
they just don't go for it.
This is like one of the things which I kind of kept in my alternate history of the books, the main series, Star Shattered.
Yeah.
About the French. It's how should I put it? The
Freaking
Foreign Legion, Légion étrangère. I'm sorry if I butchered it.
Légion étrangère.
Yeah,
you did fine.
And they have this, like, this is considered the most elite spaceborne infantry of France, because it's like everyone has the humanity has advanced into the stars. So if they wanted to send someone to defend a strategic point of interest, and I'm talking about like the entirety of the Terran Minarchy, which includes France, they will send them, and then they will fucking hold this point forever. They will continue fighting with vibroblades if they have to.
Yeah,
it's like, no, screw you. we are holding here. There is like a draft which I have to write it. It's a short story which kind of follows after another story I wrote about a captain, spaceship captain, a French spaceship captain, and this is about his some of his helpers, which they are part of the Legion, and they had this draft, like there is a mission. They are sent to defend this abandoned station, which does not belong to humans. It's an alien station. And they said, okay, like you have these supplies, you have ammunition, you have power packs, you have missiles and everything, food, etc., etc. You have to hold this like for 3-star weeks, and then you have your ships, you have your shuttles, like retreat. But the problem is that when they go there, they discover that the station is not actually abandoned, and there are people there who are slaves who were used to operate the machinery. It was like an ore processing station, almost like Terrak Nor in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and they're like, well, we won't retreat. We'll stay. We're staying here. Otherwise, these people will die. And their commanders, but we don't have enough ships. Like we can't send ships to evacuate all of them. We just have. We don't. It's not like we don't want to send the ships. We don't have them. And they're like, okay, we'll use our ships. We'll evacuate them. We'll stay there, and they stay there. I'm not going to spoil how it ends, but it's insane. You're gonna love it.
I'm sure I will. And that sort of, well, yeah.
I should send you, by the way, the story about Captain Leonard.
Sure. Sure. That sounds awesome. But where were we in the essay? Oh, right. He mentions the Paladin and Charlemagne.
Oh, yes.
I'm actually reading right now Les Chansons de Roland. I knew the story from when I was a little kid, but I'm reading it over for the first time as an adult in a long, like I said, I knew the story. They were recounted to me orally, but not like they were read to me once as a kid, but not since then. You know what I mean? I must have been like 2 or 3 or something. But I'm reading it and I'm loving it. And I'm reading it en français, so it's even better.
You. French enjoyer.
Real quick though, just on the German thing, I was also going to say that there's a stereotype in the West of the German women being very, very ice cold. When I was in Japan, or last in Japan, they were warm, beautiful, very beautiful. Now I ran into one who was having troubles with a slipper, so I helped her, like as a good gentleman should. I checked in on her and whatnot. She had a lovely smile. It's because she was wearing a yukata, a Japanese yukata, and put on sandals. But one of her sandals, she was having troubles with. She quickly.
I suspect, by the way, that these sandals are designed in such a way that they, once they suffer a malfunction, it would open an opportunity for a gentleman to,
Yeah.
There was a sneaky purpose behind this.
Yeah.
That's the very Japanese thing.
But she quickly snapped it back together, fixing it almost instantly because she knew how to make sandals and yukata and all that herself. She was a pretty impressive young lady. I met with another German lady not long thereafter who's a tour guide and teacher. By accident, I got lost in the mountains and found my way into a town. I purposely got lost in the mountains, by the way, because I wanted to get lost in that area. I found the fun of exploring Japanese mountains. Anyone who's visited Japanese mountains will know you're supposed to get lost because that's half the fun. And then you find your way to a new village and you find new locals and you get to be friendly with them. It's actually very fun, although you tend to spend about 5-6 hours doing it. But these German ladies and a few of and I also met with a French couple from France. They were all very, very friendly. But I'll say, I have to admit, though, that I found that a lot of that Russian men I've met when abroad are very friendly, but Russian women are the ice cold ones.
Yeah. It's how should I put it? There is a certain group of people who basically overwhelmingly represent those who travel to Western countries.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's if you see like a cold-hearted, really ice cold in character Russian woman, that's probably someone who is part of a certain elite,
Ah.
or they are like maybe a bit too into hoarding assets, if you know what I mean.
I got a good idea.
So yeah, that's the thing. Otherwise, like when they come here, because they come here really often, it's like the fucking Black Seas is over there. Like, come on. And even back in the day, it's like the regular people are wonderful. It's
Yeah, like I have to admit, I interviewed for a few jobs years ago, a few Russian positions. Well, there are businesses, small businesses owned by Russians out here, and the one lady to the one of the businesses was just like, it was the middle of summer, but she was ice cold. The Russian guy was freaking friendly. Like, that was for a different place down south, and it was just, the guy was hilarious. He loved Lord of the Rings, loved cracking jokes.
oh yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, he was already full up for his business.
Ah,
But he was like, "Oh, I know you. I know your YouTube channel. Can I ask you some questions?" And he just wanted to hang out with me. So we spent 2 hours just doing that, and then he said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't hire you, but you know, best of luck. Maybe try these places." And he directed me to some places, and really nice guy. But
nice.
yeah, and he considered me, since I was French. He told me, "Oh yes, let me try to imitate the accent. Russian, French people and Russian people are brothers."
Yep.
And with that kind of accent, it was pretty cool. But he was very warm and friendly and loved Tim Hortons.
Just imagine what would have been right now if the Bolshevik Revolution didn't happen.
Russia would have been so much better off.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
Not to mention the millions and millions of people who died because of,
Yeah.
you know.
I try not to think about it because it's just, you get to, I don't know, it's too depressing. Sorry if that's weird.
Yeah, it's no, it's not. It's not. Yeah.
Russia deserves so much better than what she's gotten this past century. As have all the Slavs. You guys have had the most rotten century imaginable. But yeah, so there's the stories of Charlemagne this guy mentions. And I love this picture. I just love this picture of Roland
Yes.
blowing his horn, warning Charlemagne at the cost of his own life. Wow.
Yes.
Just look at this. This is beautiful. But Wolfgang von Bibra was the, I hope I pronounced that right. And he's depicting Roland with Durandal and atop his horse Vélentif at the Battle of Roncesvalles. And oh man, like, this is just the coolest to me. Yes, I'm gonna gush. It may have been a military disaster, but you know, it led to a cool story. So France has permitted her one defeat, or deux France, as I like to call it, because that's what France. Well, the titles of France are Douce France, l'Éternel, Gentle France, the Eternal. But the Carolingian myth, this guy explains, was put aside in the Anglosphere. A damn shame. Charlemagne, considered to be the father of Europe, and yet also the forefather of the French nation. I'll also add the German nation, just to be nice to the Germans. Yeah, this guy gets into a good degree of, what happened, like the smear campaigns against French history, which, smearing the Crusades, which
oh yeah, the Crusades, yeah,
that's a complicated topic historically. I don't feel comfortable discussing because I don't know much about it in comparison to others. Do you know more about it?
Well, I'm not an expert. I know bits. I remember studying in school, but it was like pretty sparingly touched. It wasn't like in great detail. But there were like some of the events which led to that whole crusading thing, which were mostly the pillaging of Europe by
French.
certain.
Well, technically, it was us French and the Germans doing it.
No, it was the.
Well, we pillaged everything on the way to the Holy Land the first time in the First Crusade. Second Crusade, I think it was taken through Sicily. Same result. No, wait. Second Crusade was with Louis Set. It was far gentler. Third Crusade was with Louis Charles, Coeur de Lion, the then King of England, who sacked Sicily because, it's the thing to do. And he otherwise behaved himself like a child till he was basically just bribed to get the hell out of there. And Philippe Auguste had to basically apologize for Louis Charles' childishness. And, because dad wasn't around and mom's still alive, but she's basically guarding the Angevin Empire. So, your former friend has to basically just clean up. And all I know is the Fourth Crusade is the one which a lot of Orthodox people hold a grudge about. Some, not all, but a lot. Where a Crusader army was somehow kidnapped and then used to sack Constantinople.
Mm-hmm.
Stupidest crusade in history. I do mean the stupidest. Because I believe it was the Venetians that time who were just being scum, for lack of a better word. And the only thing that's humorous about it is that it's led Daniel and myself a few times. When we explain the story a little to some people we know, they tend to go, how the do you kidnap an army? Well, ask the Venetians. They somehow...
They pulled it off.
The army itself was kidnapped and held for ransom for all intents and purposes until it went east. But what a lot of people forget is that the Fourth Crusade was disowned by the papacy. The church disowned it because they did not approve of sacking Constantinople. They said, no, we don't want...
Pretty much.
Yeah, and the Fourth Crusade's the funny one because an army got kidnapped. But it's not funny because, for one thing, it was excommunicated. The army, I mean. And now I've got the dog just fussing.
I heard it.
Va coucher.
I heard it.
But it's because he wants up on the couch. I don't want him. on the couch. But yeah, what's interesting about 1 second. He's being fussy.
No. It's adorable. Don't.
He is adorable. He's the most adorable. No. You're not taking my seat. He wants my seat. No.
Yes.
He's.
I should mention that a few days ago, I bumped into Pitty, Pitbull, and I was like a random Pitbull, but it acted as if like we've always knew each other, and I was strangely drawn to it, and there was a nice lady. She was carrying like her groceries and on the market, and the pit bull was like, "Mom, I want to sniff this dude," and she was like, "No." I'll like trip or like something, or maybe like my groceries will spill from the bags or something, and I helped her, and he was just jumping around, and he even licked my face, and then basically hugged me. So yeah, I don't know. Some people dogs hate. They can't stand them.
All right. Well, it sounds like the pit bull and you have are natural soulmates. I had to give the dog a treat to get rid of him.
Yeah, you have to remind me. Use the private chat and send me your email so I can send you that story.
Okay. But just to keep making our way through this,
Yep.
The English cycle apparently is a contrast with King Arthur. Well, what's interesting about King Arthur is that.
Hey, wait. King Arthur, isn't that the French story?
Well, sort of. King Arthur. Okay, there's a complicated inspiration to King Arthur. You know, you have some early Welsh stories, and you've got a Scottish figure from Dalriada called Arthur, who is the only figure we like from the right period that we can kind of find to match. But on the other hand, most of the later stories were in French, such as Gauvin, and the stories by Chrétien de Troyes, comme Parzival, and there's other stories, but he got grafted onto the English literature as the great matter of England. But the thing is, in all honesty, King Arthur is basically a cheap knockoff of Charlemagne. That's not me bad-mouthing Arthur, that's just reality that this is just like basically the English needed their own version because they were feeling self-conscious and they were dwarfed by France's great epic and felt, well, propaganda-wise and mythologically, we need some means of, you know what I mean, like standing toe-to-toe, because they were discouraged by the fact that they didn't have any story of their own. Even though they had Beowulf, and they did have...
Beowulf is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. The English have great stories and are natural poets, in my opinion. But the thing is...
Yes, they do have... Yeah.
Mais le trouble avec eux, c'est que the English in the medieval period were like where the French are today. A little lost, mythologically speaking, and poetically speaking. The French are lost today and don't have a unifying myth today. Like, they've been somehow, well, because of the revolution, they've been disconnected from Charlemagne. This is part of the reason why I'm writing what I write, because, you know, to reconnect nous les Français avec nos racines, us French with our roots from a mythological perspective. And we do need our own mythology, like what Tolkien did for England. But the thing about King Arthur is that Tolkien quickly realized a problem, that they are not, these stories are mostly derivatives of German and French epics and stories, so that there's a sense of, there's an inferiority complex, really. But the English have, well, in the 20th century, overcome it, thanks to, I would argue, Tolkien.
Oh yeah.
His Lord of the Rings and his Silmarillion, which are vastly better than any of the King Arthur stories. And I love the King Arthur stories, don't get me wrong, but you compare them to the story of Roland and some of the myths of Charlemagne, and they're not, like, they don't compare. They don't compare. The French stories are better. But the thing is, Arthuriana is a great set of stories, but the English in the medieval period definitely had an inferiority complex. And Arthur is a very, well, the stories are great, but the problem is, the accomplishments of Arthur are modeled after the accomplishments of Charlemagne. And you have this sense that they keep borrowing from the Charlemagne stories, the Carolingian stories. They keep borrowing. And the trouble is, the English wanted to, like a kid with his parent, they wanted to move out and find their own way. And the English definitely did with the stories, I would argue, of not only Lord of the Rings, but also Hour of the Dragon and Conan. Although Conan is also is Texan, and so belongs to the mythology belongs to Texas, but it's also part Irish because of Howard's own sense of his Irish identity.
By the way, Rich Snow?
Yeah.
She's our Texan lady. She knows, like, probably everything that one could know about the mythology of Texas and Tejanos and everything. It's like during our talks on, I'm going to I'm going to mention that other stream.
Just mention it.
I'm just going to mention it. The Parent Tuesday stream, like we always, no matter the topic, and last time we talked about AI, no matter the topic, she has something to say, to add to the conversation, just from her vast knowledge of, like, the Texan, everything, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Well, she is Texan, and, well, last I spoke to her, she said y'all, and I just remember Dan. That Texan accent is just.
Yep.
I'm a Texophile, so I'll say that. Like, I love the Texans. They're vastly underrated as a people. But yeah, I'm just going quick because people should probably check this out themselves. But this is funny. Just as Napoleon modeled himself after Charlemagne, modeled himself after Augustus, which Charlemagne's, I would argue, is the European leader who came the closest to Augustus in terms of grandeur and greatness. And Augustus modeled himself after Alexander the Great. In my opinion, I think Augustus surpassed Alex because Augustus built something lasting and a arguably almost as large empire, like, except it spanned 3 continents, arguably. So, yeah, I love Augustus. I think he's the second most remarkable man of his time period, after our Lord, of course. And Alex modeled himself after the fictional Achilles. Or for the uninitiated, Brad Pitt.
Yes. That's why no one will remember your name.
Yeah, and that movie was actually a great one. I would argue in some ways it was the last great historic epic
Yeah.
of
Yeah, but because the actors, come on, let's face it, the actors actually made the movie, and we had a bunch of Bulgarian guys who wore all the armor and then marched in the hot sun. So yeah, you know.
and that brings me to speaking of Bulgarians and whatnot. Um, I do have one last question because someone actually ended up asking me some questions about this and discussing it with me, and I thought it was fascinating. Um, he said that Franz Ferdinand, I think it is,
Yep.
had proposed a Danube federation. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely familiar with all the details, but it occurred to me that if we have to have these kind of blocks, you know what I mean? Like, I had actually told the guy maybe that does work for us French. Though we're kind of at a loss because we only have the other Celtic nations, but those are in the British Isles, and our only other options would be the French Empire or Commonwealth. But it occurred to me the other day that like, I don't know if this is weird, but maybe it would have been better rather than the EU, maybe to have France with her Commonwealth and Empire, a Danube Federation, a Scandinavian Confederation, with Iceland, Denmark, and Finland, Sweden, and Norway, and over in the east, maybe a Yugoslavic bloc and a Greek bloc. And by Greek, I mean like Bulgaria, Macedonia, Greece. Like, I don't know if this is crazy, but maybe this is like, maybe this would work better.
It would have, but the problem is that the time is past, and now people have different mindsets.
Well, what if I wonder what would be if the EU was reorganized into these smaller blocks?
Well, the EU is basically it's
trash, but
it's a communist bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats who basically waste all of our time, all of our money and potential.
Yeah,
and they're just serving the same globalist trash masters, which it's like it's going to end. It's inevitable, like all things, good or bad. It's going to end, and the more they prolong it, the worse the end. But not going on a tangent here. If this block was to exist, would have been. I think it would have been probably Bulgarian, Greece,
Croatia too.
Yeah, Croatia, Serbia, and Romania.
Oh, I was going to say it might work best just to have the Greek one and the more Serbian one.
I'm not sure that the Greeks would have they would have had co-federated status, but they wouldn't have liked to be in the same. They are now because of they were forced by the EU, but
yeah,
otherwise they wouldn't. They wouldn't. They are they have their own. They have their own thing.
Yeah, I guess
probably Albania, maybe, and Greece.
I guess my question is, um, let's say, what if this were to happen in the future? Do you think it's something that would please the people or make sense?
Mm, if it would have, if it would to happen, then I'm not sure that the people would like it. I'm not sure that they would. You have too much for the last 100 years. You have too much artificial bullshit that was caused here to us, to all of us, and you have too much
I guess I was just thinking of the Eastern
bad blood, which shouldn't have been. Most of this was a product of somebody else's and manipulation and political games and economical gains and all sorts of the globalist crap, which it's not new. For those who are uninitiated, it happened long ago too. But if you have maybe 2 or 3 generations living under this block and it's stable, nobody meddles, fucks around, probably it would work, but it would need a couple of generations, at least 2.
But right now it wouldn't.
Right now it wouldn't. It would be an almost immediate war. At least 1, probably 2.
Yeah.
With a bunch of insurgencies popping all over.
Yeah. So, I'm French, so I'm and you know my history of Heracles, so I have a natural fondness for Greece, and I just think the way Greece has been treated in the past few decades is utterly disgraceful.
Especially if you remember what happened during the Second World War.
Yeah. And that reminds me. I also wrote 2 essays on the publishing industry, namely on how things have turned to shit and how there's a push still for feminist nonsense, and they can send everything they want unsolicitedly to Penguin Random House and one other place. And most of the French big publishing industry is all captured. And these clowns, for lack of a better term, are all, they basically treat it like they're private property. And the trouble is that what I said was, well, men are going to have to either come up with female pseudonyms, or pen names, I should say, and trick them, which I would argue is a perfectly legitimate.
It's already happening. I mean,
Spain.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. I think, however, that this also harms, weirdly, women, because men are apparently in the Francosphere, Germanosphere, and Anglosphere just, oh, look, book, written by a woman, better move on. And this is just causing men to just not want to buy anything written by a woman. And, of course, there are some great female writers out there who are writing stuff that's produced and pretty cool. But they can't
but they're being sabotaged by this. They're being screwed over.
Now, would you say it's
because if you remember what a similar thing happened here in the communist bloc,
Yep.
It's pretty much the same crap. Like you know that those who are being promoted by the party structure, the party base, they are trash.
Yeah.
And then you're okay. Oh yeah, so I'll like I'm going to ignore like everything. Screw you. And that happened. That happened, and that's I see it again. I see it happening again. People are uh, just like saying fuck this, like screw you, and
Yeah.
they assume that it's going to work. Like we're going to subvert this and that, and
No.
but they're just setting them up themselves for an epic failure. If they hadn't done it, they would have still failed, but it wouldn't been like a fall from a skyscraper. It wouldn't be like tripping down like maybe 2 or 3 stairs, like maybe breaking your nose, maybe twisting your ankle. Now they're going to,
Slap your
what
neck.
happens? Yeah, turn it into a tapestry, pretty much.
And yeah.
They're doing it to themselves.
Yeah. And what's worse is
You know the saying. You know the saying. The one who digs a grave for someone else, he himself falls in it.
yeah, I've heard it. Well, yeah, that's a saying I've heard as I think it's a Spanish or German phrase, but they really are fond of it. I know it's pretty popular in Eastern Europe to say that.
Yep.
Um, what was it I once heard? Uh, when you go to when you want to kill someone, you might as well, I think, dig 2 graves, one for him and one for yourself, and because you're killing yourself spiritually, or something to that effect. But that's I think something Japanese, more of a Japanese philosophy, I think. But as for their book covers, apparently they're trash. Okay. I saw a few videos of them, and they're just like these pastel painted nonsense. And
This reminds me, when you just mentioned the covers, it reminded me of that disgusting corpo art with the flabby arms, like the huge arms, and the this disproportionate bodies, limbs, like, and they're using it in almost all government and other like organizations, quote unquote non-profit organizations, web pages, and all of their advertisement is with this fucking shit art. It's absolute crap. I can't stand it. When I look at it, I just want to vomit. I think you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, and
So what was that about the covers?
they were just pastel painted crap. But the thing is, apparently the feminists were complaining, well, men don't even read anymore. Boys don't read. So how can you blame it on our covers? When the covers work with the female brain, but not the male brain. And when people pointed out the difference in how the two sexes think, boy, did they flip out. And when I pointed out on my one article on Tuesday that typically what happens is when I'm teaching with a lot of my students, not all, but a lot of my students, the boys will set the standard. They'll decide, well, we like this book, or like we like the Norse Prose Edda or Lord of the Rings. This is good. The girls will follow the boys' leads and just, say, well, the boys like it, so it's good. Because what's sold to us is crap. So what the boys are looking into, which is older mythological stuff and older lit, that's good. We do that. We read that. And I just remember that um, this is something that's annoyed some people I've worked with, and they've just been like, no, you gotta tell the boys not to focus on that stuff. Masculine stuff. This is old lit, and the boys have a hunger for it, but the girls also have a hunger for it. And when I've asked them, like, why are you wanting to read what the boys are reading? They just tell me parce que c'est bon, because it's good.
Yep.
Okay, why don't you read? And
you're 100% correct, because I can see that the same happening amongst my readers. And since I began publishing, even though in the beginning I wasn't good at all, I was floored basically by the feedback, and an absolute love my readers, who many of them personally helped me, and I grew as an author because of them, because of their help. They're still helping me, and a lot of them are women, and they absolutely love, like, I'm how I write. I know the stories. The stories that I write. My characters. You've read some of them. It's absolute old school, epic heroism, and everything that was, like, I loved myself, and my friends loved as kids, and the old adventure stories about pirates, about heroes, about this and that, like adventures, going into the unknown, exploring, all of this, perhaps on steroids, and the girls love it. They love it because it's not subverted. It's what it honestly what it should be. I mean, I hope I'm good enough one day to achieve even better things, reach goals that I've set for myself. But we'll see. So far, yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Well, the other problem is the female students are. I've noticed their behavior, and I'm like they're very feminine, and the boys are getting very masculine and have a lot of machismo, a lot more than, how do I put it? In my generation, as a young boy, boys were prone to very masculine contests and competition. But then when I got to high school, I noticed that the next generation were not permitted that. And the schools basically terrorized the youngsters and tried to discourage that sort of stuff. They tried to discourage me as well in high school, and that didn't work out well. I rebelled massively. But then, and I know for a fact they've been trying to terrorize the kids since. But then, I step into a Quebec classroom, and I'm all like immediately, like, alpha generation just strikes me between the eyes as very proud, very
based.
Very based, yeah. But the thing is, these kids are very hard-eyed. They're very cheerful and friendly, but they can be very hard-eyed. Very. Sometimes some of them do cry easy amongst the boys. I know of 2 students like that, but the rest are like these. They're as tough as Rocky Balboa. They're tough as nails, and they despise not being permitted to do sports. They love just grappling in the mud and almost tearing each other apart. But they love poetry, they love literature, and they're very, very bitter and angry about the fact that there's no French Lord of the Rings. I've had that discussion with them. They're very bitter about that. The trouble is, everyone tries to tell them, well, what about this feminist wannabe fantasy story? And they don't like it. They want Lord of the Rings, except in French. But they don't want, but they do like Lord of the Rings, but that's for the English, in their opinion. They're very nationalistic. And the girls just want to push the boys down that road. The girls just encourage the boys to be more boyish. And the girls just keep encouraging the boys. And this is a very different dynamic than what I've observed in kids in the Anglosphere and in other places. But when I've taught in Japan a few times, I found that the kids behave the same way in Japan. So this is something very particular to the Francosphere, the Japanese. There's, amongst the girls, a heavy emphasis on girlishness, and amongst the boys, there's strong emphasis on masculinity. So the sexes are returning to their traditional forms, and nature is healing, I think. And
Yeah, pretty much.
But- this brings me to one thing that there's been a discussion on Substack that I kind of caused. I somewhat, I don't know if I can say kicked a hornet's nest or something, but there's been discussion about which way the future is going, whether we're going to be exploring the stars and moving into, like they're calling it the Aenean Age, but Tree of Wu and John Carter are. And they have the vision of a future where man forsakes needless superstitions, moves towards exploring the stars, continuing the space race, and generally just colonizing Mars in a year and a half from now, which I don't see that happening. But they envision a future where man becomes interstellar within probably our lifespan, and where we're moving into that sort of period. To me, this doesn't seem entirely realistic. But I'm also cynical because I look at the idea of colonizing other planets and whatnot as pointless right now, because we'd be draining our resources just for what seems to be a vanity project. That the thing is, I just view it as we need time to heal. The 20th century left scars across the world, and the post-World War II order has left massive scars, spiritual, psychological, sociological, and cultural, all across the board. And there's been some good things, but there's also been massive scars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're kind of still healing here. Now, the Trump election has moved us towards perhaps a period of healing, I think. And I'm seeing an alpha generation in Japan and Quebec, signs of nature healing. But I don't know, when I spoke to Kopernikin, on the other hand, he's leading the charge with the idea that we're headed towards monarchies again, or we're headed towards a more holistic society, a more decentralized set of societies, as civilization tries to just heal. Because the problem is our supply chains are too overstretched, and we need to start relocating them more locally. We're looking at more localist civilizations and cultures. And, and what we need is to reconquer our nations. We need to, get the particular, I'm not allowed to say it on YouTube, but the particular invaders we all have.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, from a certain part of the world that's between East Asia and Europe. And the thing is, I think that most people want to heal from these scars. And we're heading into a period either of collapse, and this is something Kopernikin kind of talked to me about and convinced me of, or we're headed towards a period when we just start resettling our supply chains more locally, and we're looking not at a unipolar world, but a multipolar one, where
Well,
you know,
yes, I like to say that I have explored uh, this um, partially years ago when I began to research for my books,
yeah,
and it's pretty much because it's like futuristic. I had to imagine uh, 50 different scenarios in my head, and then I had to write them down and everything. Uh, and it's pretty much it's almost like a hybrid of many different futures. And the key, of course, is looking at the past, and let's say, I mean, you have like a much better understanding of European history because you've delved deep into it. You studied a lot, so you know that when Europe suffered after like a long period of squabbles and wars and stuff, they went and colonized the Americas.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's not that like you don't have to do. Most people, that's what most people are unaccustomed to thinking about, is like you don't have to build a massive fleet of spaceships. You need a couple, and someone who can make and operate them at a fraction of the cost, because the government that's spending, because he or she, they're not beholden to a behemoth bureaucracy. Elum, elum. So yeah, you can begin that process, and that does not exclude the healing part. That does not exclude the let's say the neo reconquista. Let's call it like that. It does not exclude it. It's actually an integral part of it, because this is the spirit of hope.
now,
What are you rebuilding and reconstructing for? Where's the hope? Um,
but
it's partially part of it. It's that, yes, we are restoring everything so we can have a better future for our kids.
okay.
That's the most important thing. But there is that dream, that deep dream within the human soul of exploring the unknown, venturing into unknown, even if that means certain death. It's part of us.
It
It's
is. It is indeed part of us.
and you can't deny it. And then you have this
Europeans
thing that you mentioned about the abandoning superstition. No.
I think we're bound back for tradition, but
If you're going into space, I'm just going to say that if you're going into space, it's just going to repeat the same process with which happened when a bunch of sailors sailed into the fucking unknown with rickety boats. It's going to be even like it's going to be on steroids, like superstitious on steroids. We will have like space ghosts. You'll have everything, space cryptids, like thousands of them. It's going to be like an entire not just one, but like maybe 10, 12 layers of extra mythologies when we go into space. And you don't have to like send thousands of ships, like 10 ships will be enough. Like when they return back, guys, do you know what I saw in the rings of Saturn, let's say, or Alpha Centauri? Do you know what I see? Do you know what I heard? It's gonna be wild.
It's gonna be wild.
I'll be honest. I think is going at and given the weird. Well, I'll say this: like what I'm seeing in my students, Japanese and French, is a reluctance and a. They don't seem enthusiastic about space. They would prefer to, as they put it, take back what's theirs and guard it jealously and go back. Well, they seem more prone to wanting to go back to God and go back to tradition and go back to old things. They don't seem.
Without that, we can't have the other thing. It's like they're
When I talk to my classmates, my night courses, they all say, "Oh yes, but we must go into space. We must go now. We have to go now. We have to go now." But I tell them, I don't think we're going to make it right now. We might need 10, 15 years. Like,
you'll be surprised.
I don't know.
And I'll be surprised. Even I will be surprised.
I guess
you remember what they did with the computing power of a fucking hand calculator.
Fair enough. The only, I guess the thing is I'm cynical towards things, and I think if we don't start on remigration or something, we're not gonna have the means to do this. But on the other hand, I just view it as, what's the point? I guess I just think too much like a Frenchman. Let's just make life more comfortable here. Let's just enjoy ourselves. And let's just hew down the enemies, the globalists, and anyone who follows in their footsteps, and just have lots of food and lots of, cultural stuff and kids and whatnot. Let's have all that instead. My other concern is that with going into space, this will require the centralization of a lot of resources and a lot of power. So
no, that's like the if you look at how it happened back then.
Fair enough. East India Trading Company.
Yeah, it's like it's actually in the current day. It's even easier to go the other way to like complete the centralization, and then you have like a bunch of startup companies because after the success of SpaceX, you have, I think, over 50 companies that are already launching shit. And these are like almost, I call them mom and pop rocket companies.
I believe the most successful one was the Japanese, wasn't it? They landed on the moon, I think, fairly successfully at low cost.
Yeah, but it's even easier now.
Yeah. Well,
so we'll see. We'll live and we'll see.
Yeah, I guess.
I know that's like among the people who write about like the hopeful future, I'm probably, because of my past with living under communism, I'm probably one of the most like disillusioned and cynical about it, because I always see like a possible government overreach and everything, because I've lived through it and I know how shitty it can be. Even I have like, how should I put it? I have greater hopes about it.
Well, I guess the problem is I'm a localist, so I like things. How do I put it? I like nationalism. I like localism. I like history. I'm not really fond of a lot of the ideas surrounding the space race. I just think maybe a rest period, spiritually and civilizationally, might be good for us. But on the other hand, I have grave concerns about Neuralink, which is basically just tagging human beings like they're cattle, which is the entire idea behind it. And these things in connection to the space race concern me a little or a lot. But
I wrote about that too. About how you can link your mind basically to the net, and all the fucking dangers of it, and especially in a Star Shatter, the humans, they highly dislike the transhumanism aspect of cybertech. They cannot stand it, and only those who have suffered terrible accidents and they are crippled for life, only they begrudgingly would use that technology. And they even look down on because they're highly decentralized. It's a fucking binarchy. They have their own, on Earth, they have their own nations. They have in space, they have their own colonies, and basically these colonies are like the tiny Western towns with the tumbleweeds, with 50 people in them. That's what they are, because they were started by one family or two families on a single shuttle. That's exactly what you're talking, but in space, because it's possible. And I believe that's the right way to do it, and it's the cheap way to do it, and it's the sustainable way to do it, because you have, what the fuck did NASA do for the last 50 years?
Waste time and money.
Nothing. They just gobbled the taxpayers' money. They did pretty much nothing. I mean, oh yeah, we launched this probe. Motherfuckers, you could have launched a shuttle and landed to Mars 40 years ago.
Yeah. But they're I really hate NASA. Just freaking dismiss them and just turn their freaking buildings into museums. They serve no purpose. SpaceX and its counterparts have done far more. Freaking Japan just landed a freaking probe on the moon, I think it was, and basically went, oh, wow, we just did this as a kind of hobby for a year and a half. Okay, guess we're going to move to Mars now. Not people, but just guess that's going to be the next target. Groovy. And the fact that Japanese are treating it like a hobby, same with the Chinese, it's kind of funny. And it's completely humiliating for NASA. And also for Russia, because, well, they're not really in the contest anymore. I know it's going to hurt the Russians' feelings to say that, but they're really not in the running with this anymore. It's now China and US, and I guess Japan. Well, I have a friend in England who teased me a while back when I joked about, because he said he believed very ardent in Anglo-futurism, and I said, how about French futurism? Does that have a place? And he said, yes, so long as you can get Notre Dame on the moon and on Mars.
I firmly believe that if you go, if we transplant at least let's say 30% of what happened in Star Shatter, you will go to Alpha Centauri and you will fucking build Notre Dame. You will build it better and bigger. It will be 10 times bigger. And it will be seen from orbit. And by the way, on Mars, the terraform Mars, which did happen quite hard, it wasn't easy to do. They had to go through some hoops. There is, I forgot what it was in French speak, but you being French, you would know how to call it. It's obelisk of life. It's built by some of the French settlers who constructed one of the first domes, which were part of the colonization effort. and they still preserve it. It's like a monument to the first colonists, which they were, I think, like about 50 to 100 people at one point. So it's not as huge as the Arc of Triumph, but it's quite important to the Martian humans history, this obelisk.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
And it's not small. You can see it from orbit. It's big.
But, well, I guess this is why it's important to have different perspectives. I'm, I guess, trapped in the past. You have hope.
Oh, you're not trapped in the past.
No, I kind of am.
No. You're not trapped in the past. You're kind of, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're helping restore all the things from the past that worked.
Fair. So I guess we'll say I think you probably fall in line with this Aenean age. I fall in with a Ulysses.
I wouldn't call it an Aenean age. I would probably call it.
I like the name.
Yeah.
The idea of a Ulyssean age, like I said, is apparently the idea is to restore what once was and preserve it and pass it down and have a rest period before humanity moves to space. But the two ideas are interesting, and most of the people involved in either philosophical line of thinking are pretty friendly from what I'm seeing online. They're just simply, there's no name calling like outside Substack. There's just a general, oh, well, that's an interesting idea. I think this. And, but generally, yeah, like if we move to space, we move to space. I'm not going to throw a hissy fit. It's more curiosity to me.
You will love the stories.
Fair enough. I gotta get going though.
And imagine, Mormi, if they find a planet in the ancient historical level of historic like for example the antique age, like ancient Greece.
That'd be interesting.
But let's say they have green skin or blue skin and then pink eyes and everything.
I'm going to be a little careful with them because you never know. I'll want to hear them say Christo Rex or something. Christ is King, just to make sure.
You land there and you see churches.
Okay, I wouldn't know what to make of it. Well, that'd be interesting.
To say the least.
Yeah. But on the other hand, as for the future of publishing, I think it's going to decentralize even more because this nonsense that the wokesters, the cancel pigs have spread is more like an atomic bomb or a neutron bomb that is detonated that industry into 1,000 little pieces. So
they did it to themselves.
Yeah, scum. They're scum. And I know there's going to be a few of them tuning into the podcast on Sunday saying, oh, well, you're such a bigot. But at this point, I'm tired. I'm a little under the weather. I don't really feel like, well, given where life's gone in recent months, I don't feel like being nice about things. Maybe I'll feel nicer next year. Probably. Maybe. Probably not. I'm joking. But on the bright side, I'm feeling hopeful because Trump got elected, and that's a good thing. That's, I think, a good thing for all of us. Trump's probably the only man to manage the empire in generally leave something intact to a successor. I don't know if I'm just biased,
We'll
but
see.
yeah. He can't manage it worse than his predecessors. But anyways, I think people should try looking up The Black Knight on Substack and over on Amazon. Links will be, well, because of the stupid YouTube rules, in the comment section for YouTube, and for Storyfire and Substack, it'll be in the description, of course. And people really should check out your stuff because, well, you're the classier one of us, dude. And you spoke of Calnee, and yeah, I don't think people tune into these videos for me. I'm joking, but do continue to follow the Black Knight. He's awesome.
Thank you.
And his stories such as Star Shatter and also Lord of Bones are freaking gripping. Check them out. So until next time, Toodles, we'll hopefully have different topics to discuss next week. Although I think the idea of a great romance for every civilization is freaking cool.
Yes, it is.
We need one for Bulgaria. There's your duty, Sir Knight.
I think I may write one which is for Bulgaria, but is also for Japan.
Go wild.
If I can, I have to level up more before I start to work on it. Even though I have drafted most of it, did the bulk of the research. Sadly, no katanas, but there are tachi. So,
well, I can't wait to read it. So,
you will probably be the first one to read it.
Yay! So, until next time, everyone, toodles.